Hi, everybody. I am Jillian. I'm the assistant to the select board. I am not sure where any of them are. I'm a little bit confused, actually. And my computer is having a bit of a meltdown as well, so that's not helping. Okay, I think it was my mistake. I think I didn't send them the correct Zoom link. So hopefully they'll be joining. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
John can't get on either, so you have to send him a new email.
I did. I sent it to him.
Oh, okay. Because he just called me on the phone.
I just sent him an email with it.
Okay.
Well, I sent him the same email I sent you went to him, I guess is what I mean.
Okay. Yeah. He just called me and said he was trying to get on and he couldn't. So.
Okay. There he is. Okay. Sheesh. Sorry. I called Gary's house. Lori picked up. She said Gary's not home. She doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I tried calling the barn and nobody picked up. So.
She said he may have heard he had a cow out.
He's got a bull loose on the spring road.
Bull loose. Better than having chickens loose.
I don't know. No one's ever been gored by a chicken.
That's right. You want to open the meeting and do like the warrants or something and wait for Gary?
Well, you have a quorum. You might as well just get started, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's open the meeting at 6:12. Rodney tried calling me. I tried calling him back. We didn't touch base, so I have no road report.
I haven't heard from Rodney this week either. I know that they're working on that grant job on Falls Hill Road.
Falls Hill, yeah.
Today until tomorrow, replacing the culvert. So I imagine that's all he would really have to tell you.
Okay.
Next on the agenda was the legal trails discussion.
I'm ready.
Okay. Hey, Todd here. Can you all hear me there?
Yeah.
All right. Got some other sound issues. I'm actually calling you from the radio studio. I see you've got several people that are joining the meeting, and that is great to see. We're actually getting to this agenda item 2 minutes early, and I'm a little hesitant to dive in without the full select board there. So I don't know. Any idea of when Gary may be joining, or is he possibly not going to be participating tonight?
He said it might take him 5 minutes with a bucket of grain, and he'll join as soon as he can. So it sounded to me like he would be here within the, before 6:30, I would say.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, since we're rolling, let me ask you first, John and Mike, and not so much to Gary. Did you get my email about this agenda, and did you have a chance to read it?
Yeah, I got it and read it.
Okay, good. John?
I was looking for some of your references to the statutes today.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
One of them I couldn't find.
Yeah, well, that's all right. I kind of threw that in kind of as additional information that may be helpful, and we've been getting feedback from a lot of places, and a couple of people are on the call. One person is not on the call, and he's had a lot of feedback, and you may be getting some memorandum from Matt Frost, speaking of Falls Hill Road. So let me just read briefly this so that the people on the call know specifically what the discussion point is, and maybe the discussion won't even last very long. What I wrote was, I'm just giving the select board a heads up on an agenda item for tonight's meeting. Many Tunbridge residents are seeking clarity on whether there are any recognized public usage restrictions on the town's 4 legal trails. There possibly is a 5th one, but the ones that I've listed are Falls Hill, the Crossroad, Baptist Hill, and Orchard Road. If there are restrictions for public usage, what are they for each of these trails? And are such restrictions mandated by the select board with sufficient warning to and input from the townspeople? So there's kind of a lot to digest in there. But since Mike, maybe since you've read it and talked about it or been thinking about it, do you have any idea of whether any restrictions have been either voted by a previous select board or by this select board on public usage of the legal trails?
Well, the select board hasn't voted on anything, and I asked Jillian if she could find out if anything had been done, earlier. And I don't know if she found anything or not.
I haven't found anything in the office, but record keeping from different people who have all worked in that office is not the most consistent thing. So from what I have found, there have been no votes that the select board has taken regarding.
And since I had this conversation earlier with Matt Frost, he gave me a call from down in White River Junction. He also went through, I don't know how many years back he went, but he did go through the minutes that he could find online to see if there was any reference. And he is in agreement as far as not finding anything with you, Jillian. John, how about you?
I just had a question. Thinking of those 4, were they were all class 4 roads that at some point were downgraded to legal trails?
I believe so. As I like to call Betsy, and I don't think she's on this call, the Commissioner of Ancient Roads. She would have a much stronger opinion. I think there is a record of that, but I believe that a legal trail normally is formed after another road has been downgraded by a select board at some point. And I would imagine that a lot of these were changed to legal trails, maybe quite a while ago, but I don't have that exact information in front of me. No.
John Echevarria, do you know, have you seen any documentation from Edgar Dodge, or being owner of the Dodge farm now, as far as when it was downgraded? You're muted, John.
Oh,
Someone's got to tell Johnny.
John, you're muted. We couldn't hear anything you said.
I do this in a class and the students find it very annoying. The only thing I can offer is that I looked through the select board minutes and found a record of Edgar Dodge going to the select board and Orchard Road, the extension of Orchard Road from the house out towards O'Brien's being converted to a trail. I don't know anything more.
What year was that, John? Or approximately? I know it was when I was a kid.
I don't know, I'm 1990.
Oh, that late?
You weren't a kid.
Yeah.
John was a kid.
It was 30 years ago. I don't know, that was my guess. I'd have to dig it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting back to you, Todd, I don't think as a select board, Mike and Gary and we haven't made any policy or ordinance on legal trail usage, as far as I know. I mean, it's certainly come up, and it's a subject we've discussed, I think, but nothing on the books.
Right. Would you
reading about the Title 19 highway stuff? It says in here that we should write down a written policy for this, which probably has not been.
I'm sure you're in. Are you in?
I'm here. I don't hear anything though.
We hear you, Gary.
Oh, okay.
That's maybe because nobody was saying anything, probably.
Maybe.
I figured out how to start my video. So, hello, everybody.
All good.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Janet.
Hi.
Can I also
Mike?
just ask, sorry, someone is on a phone, calling from a phone, 4313433. If you could just let us know who you are, that would be
That's
great.
Todd.
That is Todd. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I also see Soro Radio on the call as
Yeah,
well.
I muted that out. That might interfere with the radio show that's going on. So I'm strictly
Okay.
on the phone. I'm not, yeah.
Great. I just needed to know. Thanks.
Yep, that's good.
And Mike, if you just went to an icon instead of a picture, we might be able to hear you better, because you're
What's the matter?
breaking.
You don't like my what?
Well, just
Don't like
if
my
you
what?
see our image, I like your,
Wait, it's your
ceiling.
forehead.
yeah,
It's your forehead.
we like your whole face.
Yeah. How's that?
Better.
That better?
Is Paul Haskell? No, who's Paul H?
I bet you it's Paul Harwood.
Harwood.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Good guess, huh?
Okay, so what's going on? Get me up to speed, please. Someone.
Yeah, okay, Gary, I'll talk. I like to talk. So just we're talking about the legal trail email that I sent to be put on the agenda, and seeking clarity on where the town is with at least the 4 legal trails that I was told are legal trails. And what we've covered so far is that Jillian has looked through some old select board minute meetings, and Matt Frost, who's not on this call, he's on a call to Korea or something, but no definitive sort of restrictions have been found in the minutes of select board meeting. But that brings up a question as far as process, and I don't know, maybe Jillian, you know about this, and that is when a town, and I have talked to folks in other towns that have class 4 roads that maybe have devolved to legal trails, when the select board is to make a decision on a restriction or changing classification, I believe that is to be publicly warned and then discussed at a future meeting. Does that ring a bell with anybody?
That rings a bell with me. I couldn't recite the full statute to you, but I remember the very brief discussion about throwing up the crossroad, which didn't come to fruition, obviously, and the research that the crossroad's already a legal trail, and the research I had found pointed to, yes, it was going to be a very lengthy process. The town would need to be involved. It wasn't just as simple as the select board voting to throw it up.
Yeah, when I was in Brookfield, we changed some classifications of roads, and you have to notify all the budding landowners and go through the whole deal. Yeah, it is quite a process.
Right. Huh. Well, this is all good information, and obviously, as anybody that's lived around Tunbridge and the general area, the general four-town area, know, over the last several years, as far as users of all of our roads, but often the legal trails, whether they're walkers or whether they're horseback riders or whether they're non-motorized bicyclists, etc., it has picked up, and we know that a couple of larger events, most notably the Ranger, which was not held in real time this year, but last year when it was held in real time, it did have 400 riders, and they were on, well, they might have done the same course. Actually, Alex Buskey just called me on a separate issue. He's the guy that runs the Ranger, and I don't know whether that's going to happen again or not. And to my understanding, that ride, at least last year, did not use a legal trail. And I guess, not that I'm speaking for the public, but I know a couple people on this call, and I'd be great to hear from Janet, that a lot of us that live in town, not necessarily promoting this as, hey, let's get a bunch of other people to come and use our legal trails, really feel appreciative of the use of the public right-of-way on the legal trails in a non-destructive manner. I think if it was a muddy day and there were a lot of horses coming through, or a lot of bikes or motorized vehicles. I talked with Zach Freeman up in Braintree about restrictions they have on ATVs and motorized vehicles. Of course, the vast trails is kind of a whole different subject matter, but responsible use by the public of legal trails is a really good thing, I think, for the town, particularly a town that is facing some challenges as far as school issues, economic issues, and the challenge that the whole world is facing with the pandemic, that these are real attractive attributes that Tunbridge has. And that's what kind of brought up the question that whether it refers to the crossroad, which definitely has some issues. And as I wrote to Gary and to Deb, that being able to use part of the crossroad, but not go into the area that definitely needs either some rehabilitation or should not be used, or it'll be further damage. It's quite washed out. That it's great when a private landowner adjacent to that will give permission for, public usage, particularly for local residents. So that's what kind of prompted my putting this out as an agenda item.
Okay. Has anyone else? Does anyone else want to speak?
Well, I'll say that I very much appreciate being able to go through those areas, and I was through the crossroad the other day, and also very much appreciated being able to take the high road and not that washed out area that Todd was talking about, and I think it's wonderful to keep it open for locals, especially. And I also, I met up with John last Sunday at the end of Orchard Road. And I understand that they also have a lot of property at the Dodge Farm that they are allowing the public to use. From the Stratford side, there's a new trail that he talked about. I haven't been up there. I don't go out that way very much, but I just think it's very gracious that landowners are willing to allow that to happen. And I want to do what I can to support that in whatever that they feel is right for their property. So I guess that's what I'm saying.
All right, thank you very much. Since I came in the middle of this, anyone else want to speak? Maybe, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, this is John at Chevrolet. I guess I'll speak up.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife and I, Karen Pratt, who's to my side here, are the owners of the Dodge Farm, and we're aware that there's this new impetus, push to open up the old Orchard Road trail to bicycles, and we are strongly opposed to this effort and encourage the select board to resist it. As long as we've owned the property, we have recognized the public's right to use the trail, and we've encouraged it. We've allowed for hiking and other pedestrian uses. We've also allowed other uses of the property, but we have tried to keep bicycles off that trail, and by and large, people have respected that, and we appreciate that very much. And that has been the traditional practice. The Tunbridge hikers and a lot of other walkers use the trail. In terms of the where we are in the form of policy, I can't speak to what's maybe in the select board minutes, but the town plan references the town trails and refers to them as available for hiking. And so it seems to me that that's a fairly authoritative statement that's on the books about what the appropriate and permitted uses of the town trail should be and is at this time. One of the many concerns I have about the idea of opening up this trail to bicycle use has to do with line drawing. It seems to me that there's a clear line between people on their feet and people on vehicles. If we're talking about hiking, that obviously includes walking and running and snowshoeing and skiing and so on. But once you open it up to bicycles, then I think the question becomes, you mean pedal-powered bicycles? And how about e-bicycles? And how about motorcycles? I've had a problem this spring with people running around the Dodge Farm on small motorcycles, tricycles, motorized tricycles, ATVs. We have I'll be very frank, a hell of a time policing trespass at the Dodge Farm by trucks and a whole variety of other uses. It's very helpful to have clear lines that are enforceable. The other concern has to do with the character of this trail. It is a short piece of trail. There's a stream in the middle of it. I don't know how somebody on a bicycle gets across the stream, but there's a stream in the middle of it. It's a narrow trail. It's used by my wife for horseback riding and some of our neighbors, our tenants, ourselves, our neighbors, the Gertzes, use the trail in order to access the pond. The trail essentially goes through the yard of the house. It is inside the yard of the house. And so to have bicycles go through there is incredibly disruptive. I think it's important to emphasize and recognize that Tunbridge has a lot of road, and it has an awful lot of dirt road. And there is more than enough dirt road for people to take long bike trips and big groups of bikers to travel on dirt roads in Tunbridge without going over the few small segments of trail. It's not essential in order to achieve the objectives of the bicycle advocates in order to turn this hiking trail into a bicycle trail. And then something that Janet alluded to, I apologize for being self-congratulatory, but I'm going to explain the amount of public access we allow on the Dodge Farm. There is a public road that it comes into the Dodge Farm, and there is a public trail that continues. But there's 325 acres of property, all of which is private. There are no public rights to any of the rest of the property. Notwithstanding that, we have a vast trail on the property. It's, I think, about a mile long. It starts at the bottom of the pasture, winds through from one pasture to another, up around the house, up through 2 hay fields, up to White Rock and 2 fields up there, then down the other side to the Tunbridge town line. I don't do snow machining myself. It's not my favorite activity in the world, but the Vass people have been very good to work with, and we are allowing that use. The Tunbridge Walks book has 2 walks. I think there are 10 walks in the book. 2 of the 10 involve use of Dodge Farm property. Working with the Stratford Trails Committee, we have just helped establish the new White Rock Trail, which goes from the Dodge Farm up from the Orchard Road at Dodge Farm up over to White Rock and then down the other side, and links to lands on the other side, creating a 5-mile trail that goes from Orchard Road down to the Stratford Townhouse. At present, none of the property is posted, and we have allowed hunting on the property. And as you all know, the Dodge Farm is a special property. It's an incredibly beautiful piece of property. It's been featured in major motion pictures, as you all know, and it gets a lot of use. We have a lot of people on the property. Not everyone, speaking generally of my family and my others who live and use the property, are delighted with the extent of the public use, but we are maintaining it for now. But we are sort of at our limit, and we do not want to see the current level of public use expanded with a use which we think is really going to create all sorts of problems and conflicts for the use and management of this property. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, John. I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, I guess, and I think I said this to you, John, yesterday when we talked on the phone, that we need to do something. We need to form a policy, we the select board, or whatever they call it. I think it's a policy, but we're not going to rush into it because we can't rush into it. And so this is a nice, we've got your thoughts and everybody else's thoughts, and we will do something at a future meeting. John and Mike can speak up if they have a different opinion.
Well, Gary, while we have everybody on here, a question came up this week just about liability. And I'm just throwing it out there, like looking at the Vermont statutes today in Title 19, it said that towns are not liable. They don't have to maintain or repair these roads, and they don't have to, guarantee safe passage on them either. So then the question that leaves is, are landowners liable for these roads? If on Orchard Road, mountain bikers made a horse spook and a rider fell off, who would be liable? Would the town of Tunbridge? Would the landowners? Would budding landowners? I don't know. I mean, somebody would be, I assume.
Right. Well, I think
the way I understand it, as long as it's still a town trail, then it's under the town. I mean, it wouldn't be, it's not like a Bass trail. It's still part of the town. So I don't think that you could, you know, sue a landowner or something for something that happened on the trail because it still belongs to the town.
But some of the legal trails, I feel like some of them, it's a legal trail and then it stops and then it's just sort of like a trail that's on private land and then maybe meets up with another legal trail or class 4 road.
Well,
I
that's
think most
private
of them,
land. I'm talking about the town trail.
But I guess what I'm saying is there aren't that many miles of town-owned legal trail in town. I feel like John is talking about trails on his private property that are used by the public more. But I guess, I don't know.
That's a different issue altogether then.
yeah, it is. I think all the legal trails that I know of, correct me if I'm wrong, but they start at a town road and come out to a town road.
Or they dead end, one or the other.
Yeah,
Well, the ones that I think that we're talking about, I'm actually not familiar with the Bassett Hill, I think Todd mentioned, but the other ones, they come and, you know, they come from a town road, and actually they're really pretty great little connectors that you wouldn't get if you couldn't go through there. And I was very appreciative to be able to walk through last Sunday. Sorry, just want to say.
So, for example, on the crossroad, if somebody was on Deb's land and got hurt, would the town be liable or would Deb?
well, also, this is just bringing up to me, like if someone gets in a car accident on a road or gets hit by a car on a road, that's not a town.
Yeah, how is
The
it?
town's not liable for that.
Yeah, I wonder how is that different, really? I mean,
Well,
personally, if I get into an accident on a road, I'm liable.
Right.
No, well, you know, say like the reason Rodney goes around and cuts down old dead trees along roads, you know, for that reason, or, you know, if there's a washout or a, you know,
Yeah.
a pothole, a culvert. I mean, certainly there's a long list of municipalities being at fault for not maintaining.
I'm just
Well,
thinking
right.
though, if I'm on a,
We have small children, we have horses. We allow some neighbors with horses to ride on the trails, as we're permitted to do as the owners of the land. And so they run into a group of bikers and a child is injured or a biker is injured. What are the potential liabilities of an accident arising from that conflict of uses?
Right. Well, I think we ought to discuss it more at a future date or in the process of making our policy. We need to consider all those things.
If I can, this is Kevin Rose here. Can everybody hear me?
Sure.
If I can just follow up on Janet's mention of the connectors. You know, one exception to that is the Falls Hill Trail, which only goes a third of a mile up in essentially the legal trail ends. There is a trail that continues through, which often people mistake as a continuance of that legal trail, but that is at least according to the official town highway map, that's private land where that continues through.
I haven't been out there in a while. I'll have to look that up.
So,
I know that section well, and just to clarify, I think just to go back in history a little bit, as far as these connector trails, they've been really important. And the folks that do not post their land, when there's a trail that is commonly known that the public, as long as they don't abuse that private trail, is welcome to use it. And just to go back to John Echevarria's comments about his property, and I really appreciate all the work that he's done with his private trails. I have seen some of the signs that are there, and I know where it kind of ends up over on the road that's just outside of Stratford. And it's a great effort, and I know he's worked with the people where he lives over there in Stratford. But we really need to narrow the scope as this goes forward strictly to the legal trails. And as we started the discussion, there is no formal restriction that has been made. Now, I'm not necessarily saying, hey, let an ATV go through or anything. Restrictions like that are pretty reasonable. But bicycles have used all of these trails for many, many years. This is not a new phenomenon. And I don't think that it should be couched in terms as if this is something new. And I think this is a right that needs to be looked at carefully from the public standpoint, not just from the private landowner standpoint. There is a right of way on the legal trails. And I think as the discussion goes forward, that we need to keep our eye on that.
Now, I hope you appreciate it. I don't see it that way because I live and use the 325 acres and there are a lot of people there. And I don't look whether they're wearing red badges or blue badges. And if you insist on increasing the volume of people on the Dodge farm, we're going to have to figure out how to subtract people on the other end.
Well, your adjoining landowner, John O'Brien, has that trail come onto his property. I'd be interested to see if he has the same perspective or maybe a different one than you do, John Echevarria, about the use of the legal trail through.
I'm in the fortunate or unfortunate position of having a property that's more of a magnet for public use than other properties in the area. And the White Rock is probably the most popular single spot in the town of Tunbridge, and we have been welcoming people up there since we bought the property. But you cannot separate the burden on us based on the trail from all the other uses that are going on that property.
Well, I don't know, because are we going to single out the Orchard Road extension as a special exemption from the usage of the other legal trails, or should it be a uniform policy? These are just devil's advocate questions that I think need to be considered.
Yep. Well, I think we can do that.
The town, my understanding is that the town does have, the right to, it doesn't need to be a blanket policy. It can be road by road in terms of usage, in terms of, landowner impacts, et cetera. There isn't a need to establish a one size fits all. If a town determines that there's damage occurring on a certain road, they can place restrictions on that road. And it's not just legal trails. They can do that on class 4 roads, class 3 roads. So I don't think that we're looking at a blanket policy.
And I just like to say that I would be happy to walk that portion on your land, John Echevarria, and still be able to go through there and appease the desire to not have people riding bicycles on that particular piece of the trail, and then also be able to keep the other portion of the Dodge farm open for other people. And because I just think it's great that you're open to so many folks. And I'm saying it can't be easy. Because I own all field right here, and I can't imagine a bunch of people walking through my field. But I would see them all the time. But anyway,
I can, Janet, I can certainly speak from someone who lives on a class 4 road, right, and has 400 riders come through on the Ranger event, and it's incredibly invasive. It includes not only multiple days of four-wheelers riding the road in advance and after the ride, but to check it out. But it includes 400 riders at high speed, flying down off that hill at probably close to 30 miles an hour. There have been a number of very close calls right outside of my meadow. So, there's some safety concerns, but also we have the 400 riders that are continuously being lapped by motorcycles and Land Rovers, et cetera, that are providing support for the ride.
Oh,
So it's when that event comes around, it's just, spend 2 or 3 days not going anywhere because you're very likely to have somebody over the hood.
So just to jump in real quick, do I hear a possible future argument, and we do have a law professor on the line, to not only restrict at least one of the legal trails to, at a minimum, bicycle usage, and actually a little earlier, John was stressing that the trail should only be used for hiking, but then he said it was used by horses, but to restrict that.
No, excuse me, that's not fair. I use that trail for skidding. I use it for all sorts of activity because it's my private property. I allow Shane Young to go with a tractor over that trail because it's my private property.
It's a public.
I can allow my wife can ride a horse down that trail. That's not within the public right at all.
The Orchard Road extension is not a public right of way?
No, the uses, I, as the landowner, am allowed to make a whole variety of uses of that trail, including for logging purposes, for riding, I can ride a four-wheeler down there if I want. Shane Young drives a tractor down there. None of those are all permitted private property uses that have nothing to do with a public right of way.
Just to clarify, the right of way, the landowner retains, the rights in fee to that right of way. I mean, the trees still belong to the landowner. The land belongs to the landowner. Yep. We're talking about a right of way with some uses that are allowed within the right of way, but it's not that the landowner is giving up any of those fee rights to that right of way. So, whether it be for logging, et cetera, those are still, landowner prerogative.
Yeah, no, I would not disagree with that at all. I guess the question might come down to if there is going to be a restriction, as Professor Echevarria is saying, as far as the public use of the right-of-way, not the private use of the right-of-way. Is that going to come from the landowner, or is it going to come from the select board in a properly warned meeting with public feedback?
Well, I think, in my opinion, it's going to come from a meeting, and it's going to be from the select board, essentially, in the end.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Well, Gary, I had a question about that, and Jillian too, since you looked into it, wouldn't that once again fall under like select board policy versus the select board ordinance? Like if it was an ordinance, that's a higher bar, requires hearings, requires a certain amount of time, right, for public input. Whereas a policy, we could do a policy pretty much anytime we want.
Well, I don't know the answer to that, except for the fact that I don't think we should rush into it and make harsh decisions quickly. We need to take time and more public input if need be, and try to be as fair as possible.
I think the difference is, like we've said, an ordinance is enforceable. It's an enforceable rule that residents of Tunbridge need to follow. A policy is policies within the municipality and the town. That's my understanding, that the policies govern how the town functions, but it doesn't govern how the citizens function.
Well, maybe we need to look into which one it is then when we're dealing with these right-of-ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm unsure, but we need to have one or the other.
So Jillian, policies are in general not enforced. They're more recommendations.
This is my not, that's my feeling basically is the best explanation I can give at the moment.
Well, my opinion is a policy is this is how we're going to work this thing. This is how we're going to run a meeting, for instance. But I don't.
Yeah, I don't think if we had a legal trail policy and someone was violating it, there's no recourse to get them to follow the policy. If it's an ordinance, it can be enforced.
It still needs to come from how we treat roads and right-of-ways and legal trails. It has to kind of come from that angle. but we need to have it based in something to do with people crossing other people's land.
I'm wondering if the planning commission could weigh in on this too.
We can ask them for sure.
Yeah,
I will
I
ask.
think the Planning Commission is a good resource, and also the Conservation Commission, and obviously all the abutting land owners or ones that have legal trails, that this is the start of a very healthy, clarifying discussion. I'm going to have to sign off right now, but I do want John Echevarria to know that while this is being worked out, a small ride that was going to use the legal trail, which we do have the right to do, will not be using the Orchard Road extension on September 5th, just out of respect to you while we work through this process. And thanks for everybody's time on this. This has been a great discussion.
All right, thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Welcome.
My legal position is the town has a policy in place providing that the trails are for hiking purposes only. So I do not recognize the right of any individual biker, and I'm going to continue to have fights as I did last night with a bunch of two crazy bikers who come through the trail and disregard me.
John, are you okay with people on bicycles then walking the portion? Or, I mean, I know I did that last Sunday. I was so on a mission. It was like, I usually am ready to like change my mind about where I'm going, but that day I was going through, and then I walked through, and it seemed okay with you. Is that not okay? Like if I come to the end of your road and I get off my bike and walk, is that not okay? He's laughing.
It was not okay with me. You told me you were going to do it, and I asked you not to do it, and you did it anyway.
Well, you asked me not to ride, and then I got off and I walked, and then I felt bad because of the exchange that we had, and I thought it was okay to walk it, but that's not okay, you're saying.
No, it's not okay, because people are going to walk by the house. And, I mean, let me give you a for instance. 2 nights ago, I'm weed whacking by the side of the road. 2 people come by. I say, I yell out to them. I say, hey, can I talk to you? They go speeding on by. Somebody else is down by the house, and he hears them as they go by. They say, don't look back, don't stop, keep going. And you know, that's the kind of rude behavior I'm dealing with on a constant basis. And you know, my position is it's not a recognized use in the town plan. It's not a lawful use, and it has not been. I mean, contrary to what Todd has said, it has not been the practice of people to use that for biking purposes. I mean, it just we have a sign up that says that's prohibited. If somebody comes and asks, we tell them no, and they have not used it for biking purposes. It is not an established use of that trail. And I understand there's a sort of a guerrilla warfare, you know, effort being mounted to open it up, but it is not an established use of that trail.
If I can follow up on the policy question with regard to enforceability, you know, for instance, a few years ago, the select board voted to close the road that I live on for a month and a half each spring because of the damage that is being done in the springtime on the road during mud season, which the town has the right to do, you know, to protect its interests in the road, et cetera. The suggestion that I'm hearing is that that's not an enforceable thing, even though the select board voted to, and it is, you know, officially closed in the spring. So I'm not sure that I would agree with the fact that a policy is something that the public doesn't necessarily need to abide by.
Sure, it wasn't an opinion. It's just a fact that I need to research, basically.
Okay. Yeah. I hope you can understand that, you know, like for instance, you know, when the select board votes to restrict it, or let's say that, you know, or, you know, to restrict uses on a road because of damage, my understanding is that means that those uses are restricted.
Yeah, I'm also wondering, Rodney would be a good person to talk to about that because he posts most of the roads in town during mud season with weight limits.
Right.
I wasn't around when that happened to your road, so I'm not sure, but I bet Rodney remembers, and maybe one of these guys does.
Yeah, it was the same select board.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Well, we could, I mean, I can find out, Jillian, too, from legislative counsel, if there's a statutory difference between policy and ordinance. Like if we had a face mask, you have to wear a face mask in public, policy or ordinance in Tunbridge, whether one would be enforceable and one would not, I don't know. If it's,
Isn't there a state law about authorizing towns to close roads? Special
we'll post them, I think, for sure.
post them for
And
flood season and so on.
it is in the statute as far as their authority, the select board's authority to restrict uses on roads as well.
And probably the opposite, Gary, like we've talked about covered bridges, like whether, emergency vehicles could use them, even though they are posted in certain circumstances.
Right, yeah. I think so, yeah.
So this is Paul Harwood. I'd like to ask the question, when you authorize a legal trail to be used by something other than foot traffic like they presently are, like the extension of the Orchard Road out to John O'Brien's, or a road that we haven't talked about, a legal trail we haven't talked about really, and that's the Baptist Hill Road, and bicycles or ATVs or something tear it all up, who's responsible for fixing it? I mean, the town has a policy that they don't maintain legal trails, nor do they really maintain Class 4 roads. But the landowner is on the hook for maintaining the roads for their own personal use via the activities of the public with their bicycles and whatever else they want to use. Baptist Hill Road goes through my garden in my lawn at the Dodge Farm. If anybody decided to open that up for bicycle traffic or any other kind of traffic, they're going to be riding through my garden and through the lawn, because Baptist Hill Road hasn't had a vehicle of any sort on it, except for the portion that's the ATV trail way down on Buckular Rocks land for 20 years. So, I think you're going to have policies that are specific to specific trails. Opening up the Baptist Hill Road is ludicrous for any uses other than walking. And even then, you're going to be in way over your ankles in mud for an upper portion of it. So, and you're going to be moving my fence in my garden to get through it. So just consider the responsibility of the landowner when it comes to maintaining the trails that have been opened up for public use. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you, Paul.
I think that makes sense, Paul, as far as when you look at, when the select boards worked with Vast and Baxter Doty, I mean, we've run into places where, Vast has been uninvited from going through a property, and because one landowner said, they don't want it. And then the Tri-Town Travelers will go back and look at, whether there are potential bypasses too. And I think that, that would be something that we could look at with legal trails, whether there was, if people are trying to get through, if there's a potential bypass to make everybody happy. And, that's, Emily had the question of whether, if that worked, say like, it's sort of already happening on the crossroad, but if you said, well, we're going to essentially use the crossroad, but it's going to be, 50 yards to the south or the west, then once again, liability and access issues come up that we probably have to answer as a select board.
I appreciate this conversation. I just want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you for appreciating it.
and I love Tunbridge.
Good.
Couldn't have voted for that.
Not perfect, you know.
Yeah, but we're pretty darn close.
All right, any more comments? And again, my full intent is to, we'll do something about this. We'll form a policy, or we'll do whatever like we need to do to, I don't know, rectify isn't the right word, but to get something down so we have some teeth behind our thoughts, I guess, so that we move ahead instead of keep pedaling along and doing nothing.
I'd appreciate that, Gary. I also am I'm glad to see John Echeverria here tonight, and I would we've actually got two on either end of that trail sitting here tonight, but I would also love to hear from Deb and from others that are landowners along the legal trails, and hopefully I think we've got a couple of issues. I think we've got a legal issue, a policy issue, a public right issue, but we've also got very much a community relations issue. We're small town, we're neighbor to neighbor, and that to me is as important as the legal issues. And I don't want to be blindsiding a landowner or whoever, resident of town. As we move ahead with this, I'd like to see the involvement because I know that it touches close to a few people in town.
All right, thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, any more comments?
Thank you very much for listening.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, John. All right.
You find your cow?
Yes, I did, successfully.
Terrific.
Great.
Wasn't doing anything with a propane tank, was it?
No propane tanks this week. He likes the taste of grain, so he was a willing participant in getting back in. So.
Good. Shake that bucket.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Or stick around. I don't care.
Okay. I'm gonna go off video for sure.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know how to do it. There it is. Bye.
Don't yawn yet. What's next, Jillian?
That's it, other than normal orders and warrants and minutes.
All right. Did anybody get a report from Rodney? All right.
No.
I have a report from Rodney. I talked to him just tonight. He said things are going well on Falls Hill Road. Matt has got all the culverts in. He has to go away for maybe 2 weeks and do other work, and then he's going to come back and finish up with the ditches and the stone lining and all that stuff. But things look good there. Rodney's truck has gone away to be repaired, and one of the things that was done was a new windshield was applied. He noticed this afternoon during the heavy rain that the windshield leaks like a sieve, so he's going to have to get someone back to patch that up. But the truck runs fine. And everything else, I think, is going fine. So that's a Rodney report.
Okay.
How about the minutes? How are the minutes, John?
They look good. No mistakes. The only thing I would add, Jillian, on the earlier meeting was that they weren't ready, and that's just that motivated that following was it Tuesday's meeting.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that.
Anyone want to make a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Anyone want a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of accepting the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. I didn't hear Wes Cummings, but he must have said yes.
I heard him.
Aye.
Okay, there he goes. Thank you. Thank you for the aye.
Gary,
Very-
Go ahead, John.
do we want to go into an executive session at some point? To
We do.
talk about, okay,
Let's take care of the warrants first.
okay.
Mr. McFeetris, did you see any problem with the warrants?
I looked through them and I didn't see any problems. They look all good.
Ugh.
All right, I'll entertain
So I
another
make a
motion.
motion we accept them.
I second it.
All in favor of accepting the warrants for this period, please say aye. Aye,
Aye.
I guess they're accepted. Anything else, Jillian?
Nope.
Okay, because we got the minutes, the warrants.
Jillian, do you want me to get in touch with the league about the whole legal trail thing? Or do you want to do that and then I can talk to legislative counsel, because the guy I'm thinking of is like the municipal law expert. So if you do
At this point in time, it would be anything anyone wants to help me with would be really helpful. I'm trying to catch up on a lot of clerk stuff at the moment.
okay.
But if it falls off your to-do list, it can fall onto mine. I feel like I don't really have the background on what that entire conversation was about. But it seems like no one actually asked a question, but it seems like the question is how what power does the select board have to regulate the use of legal trails in Tunbridge? That's
I
the
can answer
question.
that question.
Well,
I can
where were
answer
you
that
the whole
question.
time?
I
He was
can
at
answer
law
that
school.
question.
Okay, Mike,
Um,
speak up.
It says right in here that the select board can, it's under the Title 19, Chapter 3 Town Highway things. The basically the select board can do anything they want as far
Okay.
as the trails go.
Okay.
My
It
problem.
seems like there's confusion on public trails on private property, and that seems to be
Not
what
a public trail if it's on private
well,
property.
but I guess it seems like John was saying that trail, he as a private landowner has authorized it for public use, but
No.
it's not
No,
the town.
that if it's a town trail, if it's a legal town trail,
Yeah.
it's town property.
Oh, okay. So where the piece
And
that
you
I
shouldn't-
missed was
probably
that
shouldn't
entire road is legal trail.
Probably shouldn't plant your garden in it.
Okay, I was confused. I thought that the legal
Yeah.
trail ended at some point in his
Oh.
property and then okay, I got it.
Well,
Well,
I
then,
assume it's
On Falls Hill, it stops and it goes into Timmy's. So Timmy could shut that trail off at the end of Falls Hill
right.
if he wished.
Okay,
because
I
that's
gotcha.
his land.
I didn't know the specific circumstances around that particular property, that's all. But now the whole thing makes a lot more sense.
well, I mean, it's confusing, I think, for that reason, and it's a public right of way, but what that means, we haven't defined, the state doesn't define.
Yeah.
So if somebody on a four-wheeler went through Paul Harwood's garden, they might legally be able to do that. But right, since like Kevin Rose was saying, we would end up with lots of bad feelings, which you can see were already there in some ways,
Yeah.
just between landowners and use people.
Well, also, John mentioned the town plan said that the legal trails were for hiking. And I haven't seen the town plan for a while, but the town plan is is not a law, it's not an ordinance or anything like that. It's just a suggestion that legal trails can be used for hiking. And apparently the Planning Commission at the time didn't feel a need to expand on what the maximum use was, whether it was for hiking and biking or hiking and pulling a cart or whatever. So I don't think that necessarily was a good argument for John to use, that the town plan specified hiking, because it was a suggestion more than anything else. My opinion.
Oh. And I even that, since we're not on the hook for maintenance of these legal trails or repair of them, but even like class 4, if 500 motorcycles on a muddy day went down, or mud boggers, whatever, totally tear up a class 4 road, who's on the hook for fixing that?
Right. I guess we have to just chase them down and catch them and hold their feet to the fire, I think. But that's one of those tricky things that I don't know if we have legal authority to do it, but we need to do it.
They've been doing that up by my father's for 30 years.
Well, you need a constable.
Well, I don't know how much more you should discuss with all the people who were in the discussion anymore, but.
Well, like I said before, I think we need to have at a future date, we need to have a discussion again. And it'd be nice if we could do it at the town hall or someplace when this COVID thing is done, but we need to actually act on it before a year from now, for sure. But we just need to I don't know, try to take everyone's considerations into consideration and try to make everybody just a little bit unhappy, and then we'll be perfect.
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right, you want to go into executive session?
Yes, I make a motion, we go into executive session.
I second it.
Just state the purpose.
Personnel issue?
Personnel issue.
Okay.
All right, let's come out.
Okay, we're recording again.
And we didn't make any decisions.
Correct. And a good time was had by all.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion. I can do that.
Jillian made a motion in the abatement meeting.
Yeah, good for you.
Thank you. It was hard.
Is it your first motion?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, nice. How did it feel?
It felt good at first, and then I had to make it more specific, and then it got really bad.
It'll get better.
Yeah.
Look at Mike. He's a veteran of motions.
All right, anything more to talk about during this meeting?
I have some non-select board questions, but we can adjourn, I suppose.
All right, I would entertain that motion. Mike? Question? All right, second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
All right.